The title of the next episode of 1923 has been revealed, and it's enough to send chills down your spine. Journey, The Rivers of Iron. But what does that really mean for our characters? As the tension builds, the Duttons are about to face unimaginable horrors, and this upcoming episode sets the stage for some of the darkest moments yet. The quiet before the storm is over, and now it's time to unpack the drama, suspense, and heartbreak about to unfold. What do we know, and what are we still dying to find out? Buckle up, because this episode is about to take us on a ride we'll never forget. The Duttons have always known hardship, but in the latest episodes of 1923, they are facing a wave of challenges that seem impossible to overcome. After the brutal events of the previous episode, things have only become more dangerous, uncertain, and far more personal. The title Journey, The Rivers of Iron speaks to the difficult road ahead for these characters, carrying an ominous promise of more suffering, especially for the women. While we might hope for some respite, this episode will be anything but peaceful. As the story unfolds, we will watch as characters are pushed to their limits. There is a sense of impending doom not just in the environments they find themselves in, but in the decisions they'll be forced to make. Their world has unraveled slowly in past episodes, but now everything is speeding up. The fear is palpable, and every step carries serious consequences. As tensions mount, this episode doesn't waste time revealing what's at stake. Zane, still struggling after his horrific injuries, faces an uncertain future, one that could end in death. The gravity of his condition casts a long shadow over the ranch. It's no longer just about survival, it's about the cost of survival. This time, it will take more than just physical strength to overcome the battles ahead. Emotional resilience, trust, and determination will determine who makes it through and who doesn't. Meanwhile, Elizabeth has reached her breaking point. She has been tested, pushed beyond her limits, and as much as she has tried to hold on, she is no longer sure she can keep fighting for a life that has brought her nothing but pain. The mounting pressure of the ranch's turmoil is too much for her, and she is ready to leave it all behind. But leaving doesn't come without its own set of challenges. Will she make it out, or will the ties that bind her to this land be too strong to sever? And what will Jack's role be in all of this? Will he stand by her side, or will his loyalty to the Dutton family pull him in another direction? As the episode progresses, the stakes are higher than ever. The women in this story have always been tested in ways that are both heart-wrenching and unfair, and Alexandra's journey takes a darker turn. Her arrival in America might have seemed like a new beginning, but instead, she is quickly thrown into the terrifying world of Ellis Island. The bureaucracy, the invasions of privacy, the mistreatment, it's everything Alexandra never expected. It is heartbreaking to watch, but it is a raw portrayal of the cruelty many immigrants faced at the time. Will she survive this ordeal, or will the weight of this journey be too much for her to bear? Her strength is undeniable, but even the strongest women have their limits. And if you think things are bad for Alexandra, the chaos is just beginning. As she moves through New York City, everything she thought she knew about safety and stability crumbles. In a world where danger lurks at every corner, even the simplest tasks like securing a ticket to Billings become life-threatening. A seemingly innocent moment in a restroom turns into a nightmare when Alexandra is assaulted, her hope for a better life in America shattered in an instant. But it doesn't end there. Her attacker may be a coward, but her fight is just beginning. Will she lose herself in this brutal new world, or will her resilience carry her forward, even when everything seems stacked against her? Meanwhile, Spencer, far from the chaos of Ellis Island, faces his own battle. The action in Texas is heating up as he finds himself in a dangerous game. The man he once trusted, Luca, is now pushing Spencer further into the line of fire, unwilling to let go of the dangerous business they've entangled themselves in. Spencer's sense of duty to family, his need to protect those he loves, and his deep-rooted instinct to survive all clash in this episode. When Luca's reckless actions result in an unimaginable tragedy throws Spencer's world into turmoil. The loss of Luca is the loss of a brother in arms, something Spencer cannot easily move past. What comes next is anyone's guess, but the Duttons and their allies are heading into a storm they may not survive. The unknown dangers they will face in the coming episodes are enough to make even the most hardened characters question their next move. Will Spencer find his way out of this mess alive? Will Alexandra's spirit be broken by the brutality of her journey, or will she emerge stronger than ever? And will Elizabeth find peace, or will the tragedy of the ranch continue to haunt her? Leaks, spoilers, and first-look teasers show just how deep the drama goes. But one thing is clear, no one is safe, and every choice will have devastating consequences. You'll want to stay tuned because this episode is shaping up to be one of the most suspenseful, heartbreaking, and action-packed yet. And if you think you know what's coming, think again. The atmosphere in the next episode of 1923 is thick with tension as the Dutton family faces the harsh realities of their unforgiving world. The aftermath of Zane's brutal injury and his deteriorating condition cast a long, dark shadow over the ranch. As he clings to life, the family struggles to comprehend just how fragile their survival truly is. It's no longer just about fixing the wagon or keeping the fire burning. It's about facing the grim truth that someone they love may not make it through. Zane's suffering is more than just a personal battle. It reflects the larger, unrelenting forces working against the Duttons. For Jacob, his family, and the ranch hands, this episode will test their endurance and willpower like never before. In quiet moments of desperation, Jacob's leadership and the steadfastness of the Duttons are put under a microscope. The weight of responsibility falls on Jacob's shoulders, but even he knows this is not a battle he can win alone. The ranch, once a symbol of security and power, now feels like a prison slowly closing in around them. As Zane's condition worsens, the urgency to make difficult decisions grows. Dr. Miller's grim diagnosis that the only way to save Zane is through a high-risk procedure hangs over the family like a guillotine. With no anesthesia available, the sheer pain of the operation is almost unbearable to imagine. That makes it all the more devastating to realize that the Duttons might lose Zane before they even have a chance to fight back against the forces threatening them. Jacob's resolve will be tested in ways he has never experienced before. How does a man who has lived through decades of hardship cope with the idea that his family's future could be torn apart by something so uncontrollable, so senseless? This is the crossroads. The episode brings us to where we see just how far Jacob is willing to go to keep his family together and the ranch intact. But the clock is ticking, and in the brutal world of 1923, not everyone will make it to the other side. At the same time, Elizabeth's emotional unraveling continues to take center stage. From the moment she first stepped onto the ranch, it was clear she was ill-prepared for the violent, relentless nature of life in the 1920s. As the next episode unfolds, the trauma she has endured throughout the series weighs heavily on her soul. The gunshots, the wolves, the constant fear. Elizabeth is at her breaking point. Her decision to leave the ranch is not just an act of defiance. It is a life-altering choice that could change everything for her and Jack. In a world where family is everything, leaving is not just a personal decision, it is a rebellion against the very foundation of the Dutton way of life. Elizabeth's struggle mirrors the complexity of the 1923 universe. Nothing is ever as simple as it seems. Her relationship with Jack, which has been a bright spot amidst the darkness, is now on the brink of collapse. Can their love survive the unbearable weight of the ranch's turmoil, or will Elizabeth's need for escape tear them apart? Jack's understanding and support are crucial at this moment, but the ranch has already taken so much from them, and they are running out of options. The question lingers, will Jack be able to convince Elizabeth that this life, despite everything, is still worth fighting for? Is life still worth living, or will she walk away from everything they've built together? Meanwhile, for Alexandra, the struggle is far more isolating as she navigates the cruel, unfamiliar landscape of Ellis Island. The sense of dread grows stronger as she is thrust into a bureaucratic nightmare, a far cry from the dream she held when she first set foot in America. The promise of freedom is quickly dashed as she undergoes an invasive medical examination and faces the threat of being sent back to England. It is a visceral, uncomfortable experience for the viewer as Alexandra is treated like nothing more than a commodity, her pregnant body reduced to something that could be discarded. The horror of her situation is not just in the physical examination, but in the complete lack of control she has over her future. Her moment of humiliation and violation becomes a turning point. She refuses to bow to the system, yet her strength does not come without consequence. She is marked, and that mark will follow her for the rest of her journey. Even when everything seems to be working against her, Alexandra's resolve hardens. Rejected by the system that once promised her freedom, the small moments of defiance, her refusal to accept degrading treatment, and her pointed words about the illusion of freedom in America become a powerful testament to her strength. Still, no matter how much she fights, there is no denying that she is vulnerable. The world of Ellis Island is brutal, and for a woman in Alexandra's position, survival is far from guaranteed. This sense of vulnerability only intensifies when she arrives in New York City, searching for a way to reach Billings and, ultimately, Spencer. Every step she takes in the city feels like a potential trap, every corner hiding unseen dangers. Then comes the moment that changes everything: the man who follows her into the restroom, the assault that follows. It is a brutal, harrowing experience that shakes Alexandra to her core, yet it also marks the beginning of a new chapter. She is no longer the naive, hopeful woman who set out to join Spencer in America. She has been tested in ways most could never imagine. As she fights back against the assault, we see just how far she is willing to go to protect herself. Her actions are not just about survival, they are about reclaiming the power that has been stripped away from her. But even in this small victory, there is a cost. Alexandra is no longer the same person she was when she first stepped off the ship. The emotional toll of her experiences, from the humiliating medical exam to the assault, will linger long after this episode ends. What will the true cost of this fight be? Will Alexandra's resilience be enough to carry her through the trials ahead, or will the brutality of her journey break her down? Meanwhile, in the heart of Texas, Spencer's world is also beginning to crack. The tension between him and Luca is escalating quickly, and what started as a seemingly simple mission to deliver alcohol turns into a deadly confrontation. Spencer's instincts kick in. He knows trouble is coming long before it arrives. The checkpoint is a warning sign, but Luca's desperation clouds his judgment, leading him straight into danger. When Spencer is forced to take action against his former ally, the stakes could not be higher. He is not just fighting for his own survival, but for his future and the future of those he loves. The confrontation with Luca marks a pivotal moment for Spencer, revealing the cracks forming in his relationships and the tensions simmering beneath the surface. Spencer's world is a constant balancing act between survival and morality, and every decision he makes carries irreversible consequences. The moment he disarms, Luca is more than just a physical altercation. It is a symbolic turning point. Spencer understands that loyalty in the world he inhabits often comes at the cost of his own safety. His warning to Luca about betrayal within his own family is not just advice. It is a reflection of the harsh truths Spencer has learned over the years. He knows that while family bonds are sacred, they can also be the most dangerous chains to be shackled by. Luca's refusal to listen, his need to prove himself, inevitably leads to his tragic end. As Spencer watches Luca fall in the gunfight with the authorities, he realizes that in this world, trust is a rare commodity and survival always comes at a price. It's clear that the situation is spiraling out of control. What began as a simple, albeit dangerous, task to deliver goods has now turned into an all-out struggle for survival. Spencer isn't one to shy away from danger, but even he can't help but feel the weight of what's unfolding. The loss of Luca, someone who once looked up to him, is a bitter reminder of the world Spencer has chosen to live in. A world where survival is a daily struggle and where sometimes the ones you care about most are the ones who drag you down. Spencer's immediate reaction is to rush back to the checkpoint, hoping to make a difference, but by the time he arrives, the damage is done. Luca's death will haunt Spencer, but it will also shape his next moves. It's clear that he can't afford to get tangled up in the business of others, especially when it leads to bloodshed. This realization will push him to consider his options with greater urgency. He needs to find a way out, a way to escape Texas and the chaos that follows him wherever he goes. But just when it seems like Spencer is headed for safety, the relentless pursuit by the authorities intensifies. In the upcoming episode, Spencer's fight for freedom will reach its boiling point as he evades capture in the vast Texas landscape. He will encounter even more danger, forcing him to make choices that will leave a lasting impact on his future. Meanwhile, the stakes for Tiana continue to rise. Her presence in Oklahoma has already set off alarms, and with the authorities closing in, her journey becomes even more perilous. It's not just about escaping, it's about surviving long enough to find a place where she can exist freely without the fear of being hunted down. As the authorities intensify their search, they will stop at nothing to catch her. But there's a significant twist. It's not just the lawman she has to worry about. Kent and the priest Renault, both relentless in their pursuit of Tiana, will use every means at their disposal to blend in with the cowboys and catch her off guard. Their plan isn't just to capture her, it's to neutralize the very thing that has been a thorn in their side for so long. As the story progresses, Spencer's eventual capture by Marshall M. Foes adds another layer of complexity to the unfolding drama. Foes, driven by a need for justice and a desire to bring down those she deems outlaws, will stop at nothing to track down both Tiana and the priest. Her pursuit of Spencer will be just as relentless. But as we've seen before, Spencer is never an easy man to catch. His skills in evading capture are legendary, and even though the odds seem stacked against him, it's clear that Spencer isn't going down without a fight. The dynamic between Spencer and foes will shift from a cat-and-mouse game to an uneasy alliance. Despite their differences, there's a certain level of respect that begins to develop between them. Both are survivors, both have been hardened by their respective worlds, and both are driven by an internal code that shapes their actions. The question remains, how much will they be willing to compromise in order to achieve their goals? Spencer may be forced to make an uneasy truce with foes in order to survive, but the real question is whether he can trust her enough to join forces, or if this will be just another temporary alliance in a world where betrayal is always around the corner. While Spencer grapples with the fallout from Luca's death and his race against time to avoid capture, the tension in Montana grows to an unbearable level. The Duttons' world is spiraling out of control as more and more threats loom over them. With Zane's life hanging in the balance, the trauma of the wolf attacks still fresh, and Elizabeth's decision to leave looming, there's no doubt that Jacob's family is teetering on the edge of collapse. Jacob's leadership, once a source of strength, now feels strained. Every decision he makes seems to carry life or death consequences.